everybody. Today we are going to talk about area, which is Go Math Lesson 13.2, and it's pages 723 to 728. Okay? So, area is the measure of unit squares needed to cover a flat surface with no gaps or overlaps. So, the other day we talked about perimeter, and we said perimeter was the measure of the outside of this shape. Today we are going to talk about area, and what area is how many unit squares we can fit on the inside of this shape, okay, or this figure. So if you look up here, this is an example of a square that has unit squares drawn inside of it. And what a unit square is its measure is 1 unit long and 1 unit wide, whatever the unit is, inches, centimeters. So that means that this square is, let's say, 1 centimeter long by 1 centimeter wide, okay? And all of the unit squares that are drawn in a figure that you're finding area are 1 unit long by 1 unit wide, okay? So that's what area is, how many of these you can fit on the inside of that figure. So very similar to perimeter. Perimeter, we had to add up all the sides. Well, area, we multiply the sides. We multiply the base times the height. The base of a figure can be any side. It doesn't matter which side it is. Now the height is the measure of a perpendicular line segment from the base to the top of the figure. So really what that is, it's the other side of the shape that is not the base. So whatever your base is, it's the other one, okay? And I'll show you how you would figure that out looking at our next example. So right here, I have a rectangle, and here's my base, and here's my height, okay? When it says perpendicular, this is what it means. So if this was my base right here, I'm telling you that's my base. Perpendicular, if you remember, it forms an L. So if I were to continue drawing this line, it would form that L right there, or those 4 right angles. So then this side would be your height, okay? But most of these problems, it's telling you your base and telling you your height. So no need to worry about that. The big thing is getting this formula down and doing your multiplication correctly. So in this case, area equals base times height. Now my base is 5, I called it centimeters. I know it's 5 because I said, oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All I did was count my unit squares. So my base is 5. Now my height is 2 centimeters, and I got that because I went in and I counted my unit squares. 1, 2. So my base times height is 5 times 2, and we all know 5 times 2 is 10, and make sure you label it with whatever the label is. In this case, it's centimeters. So the area of this rectangle is 10 centimeters, meaning there are 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 unit squares, all of which measure 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter inside of this figure, okay? All right, so let's look at some examples. I am pulling these right from your textbook, so if you want to follow along with me, this is page 725, and we are going to do 2, 3, and 4, okay? So number 2 is a rectangle, and it gives you all of this information. So it says that this side, this base is 7, and this height is 2. Inches is your unit of measure. So if area equals base times height, area equals, plug in your numbers that you know, or your measurements that you know, and it is 7 times 2. Everybody, what's 7 times 2? Absolutely. It is 14, and what is your label here? Yep, 14 inches. Okay. So all you're doing for these in this lesson is really just multiplying the two numbers together. Some of the numbers are bigger, so you will have to do either 2-digit by 1-digit multiplication or 2-digit by 2-digit multiplication, but all of you should know how to do that. Now, number 3, I have this figure right here, this little rhombus guy right here. And it's telling me that this is 9 meters and this is 9 meters. Well, I know you're looking at it and you're like, Mrs. Hamilton, why don't you have base times height? Why is it side by side? Well, I'm going to tell you. If this is 9 and this is 9, that means that all the sides are equal or the same. So this is really a square. And if you look at it, it's kind of just a tipped over square. We learned about this back in chapter 10. So when we are using a square, we do side times side because the sides are exactly the same. It's the same thing as base times height, but in a square, all the sides are the same. So there's really no base and there's really no height. So you do side times side. And that's only for a square or something that has all the same sides. Okay, and you know it has all the same size because if this is 9 and this is 9, this must be 9 and that must be 9. So you do it the same way. You plug it in, okay? One side is 9, the other side is 9, and ladies and gentlemen, what is 9 times 9? Absolutely. So the area of this figure is 81 meters because that's my label right over here, okay? All right, give me 1 second. I'm going to switch sides for a second. All right, and number 4, we have a rectangle again, okay? And this is one of those bigger multiplication problems I was just telling you about. So area equals base times height, okay? So area equals 14 times what? Yep, times 8, because you use both of these numbers. Now, I can't possibly do this in my head, okay? So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to make sure that I do this the right way. And I'm going to say that 8 times 4 is 32. I'm going to put down the 2 and carry the 3. I'm going to say 8 times 1 is 8 plus 3 is 11. So the area of this rectangle equals 112 feet. Okay? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, that's really it for area. I just wanted to show you what a unit square was and how all that played into finding the area of a figure. So your work this for today is really just doing this exact same thing that we just did for 2, 3, and 4. It is multiplying the two numbers together and figuring out what the area is. If you look at page 725 up, and I'll show it to you, up in the purple box right here, it does have the formulas for you. So your rectangle is base times height and your square is side times side. The only time you use side times side is for a square. Okay? Let's see, anything else? Let me show you this just in case you get a little bit confused. On page 723, you have a chart that looks like this, okay? All you are doing here is counting the squares. So this guy right here is telling you that your base is 5 units. We don't have a measure for it, okay? And all they did was count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? Your height would be this side right here. And how many squares, how many unit squares do you see on this side? 1, 2, 3. So your height for this would be 3. And then your area, if you multiply 5 times 3, you get 15 units. So that's what you're doing for these two figures as well. All you're doing is counting the squares, okay? The unit squares inside. Well, that's really it, ladies and gentlemen. Those word problems, make sure you are reading them and make sure you are figuring out what the most important information is and what information you are going to use. Some of them are a little bit tricky, but there's not a whole lot of word problems in this section. But if you have any specific questions, please reach out to your specific math teacher and we would be happy to help you. And that's it. There's area. All right, guys, I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching.